Welcome back to the show. I am Daisy Cousens. Well, with the 2024 US election looming, there is always something going on across the pond in politics of all stripes. And one yearly event that is integral to harnessing conservative sentiment is the Conservative Political Action Conference, or CPAC, in which conservatives from all over America and indeed from around the world come together in Washington, D.C. to collaborate with like minds, listen to speakers, and all around have a good time. In fact, this year's CPAC just took place in DC, and we are so lucky this evening to have with us the co-founder of CPAC Australia, our own country's esteemed iteration of the conference, Andrew Cooper, to discuss all things CPAC and more. Andrew, it is so fabulous to have you here. How are you?
I'm great, Daisy. We missed you at CPAC in the US. I know you've come a couple of times.
Well, you know, I've always loved it when I have come, but unfortunately this year I actually was in a play and our opening weekend was there. So it would have been lovely to go, but alas, I couldn't be in two places at once. But I heard many wonderful things about it. So please tell me, in a nutshell, how was CPAC? Well,
I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, you've been there. It's the great show. It's the big political show on earth that, you know, I've sworn I will never miss. And this year, of course, it's the election year. And you know it's an election year as you approach the massive convention centre, the build-up, the state troopers, the protesters. You get inside, the Secret Service in attendance, and then when you enter the great, you know, ballroom with 7,000 people in attendance, it's quite the buzz.
That's incredible. So there were protesters there, were they? Were they particularly active? Any notable crazies?
Look, honestly, sometimes I can never even work out what they're protesting. They're pretty pathetic. They need better signs or something. But no, look, there's not a lot of protesters. It's a great vibe, a big feel-good vibe. Often you go to CPAC and there's lots of different factions. Yeah. Given the state of the, you know, where the nomination is for the Republican Party, it's pretty well a Trump fest. Yeah. And so, you know, everyone was in good spirits and, you know, I mean, I love the show. I mean, you say you're in a play, you know, at that time. There was a lot of play acting going on there as well. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, that's what I love about American politics. It's so theatrical. Like the theatrics of it is so much fun. I think we both agree we need more of that in Australian politics. Do you think it is something about Americans specifically that makes American politics so much like the greatest show on earth, or is it to do with the way their democratic system runs? It's quite different to ours.
Well, I think it's probably both, but I think it's definitely to do with the way their democratic system runs. I mean, you've got to ask people to come and vote for you. They're not forced to come and vote for one or the other. So you've got to put on a good show. And I guess what they're trying to do then is to attract their supporters rather than in Australia, we're trying to not to offend the middle ones. Yeah. And so it's much safer in Australia. And I think that's to our great shame, basically.
Yeah, I think so too. It gets very boring and I think it just makes people tune out. Like,
yeah. I mean, you've got the extremes over there contesting ideas, and in Australia, they're all after the 20% in the middle or 30% in the middle, and I think that's right. It condenses things down to a pretty boring sort of narrative.
I think so, unless of course you get the incidents like Barnaby Joyce falling off a planter box in the middle of the night. Poor old Barnaby. But
you know, it's hilarious, right? You know, all these lefties who have never been drunk in their life, never been drunk in their life, you know, suddenly outraged that someone's had a few drinks and slipped off a pot plant. You know, I mean.
I know, come like on. Really, like, it's this neo-Puritanism of the left.
Yeah.
You know, no one's allowed to have any fun. No fun. Absolutely no fun.
Yeah.
Not at all. Now look, one news site actually reported that this year's CPAC doubled as a coronation for former President Trump. Now, what are your thoughts on that statement?
Look, it definitely had that feel. Nikki Haley, look, CPAC is pretty MAGA to start with. Yeah. It's probably the very conservative side of the Republican Party. Which Trump plays into. That's his sweet spot. Nikki Haley has always had a good reception, but last year she turned up and she made what I thought was a pretty good speech. And then upon leaving, the media surrounded her, and then about 100 supporters started chanting very softly at first, but then in a crescendo of sort of Trump in her face. I just thought, Nikki's not coming back next year. Trump's got this. And that was a year ago. So yeah. She didn't turn up. Obviously, Ron DeSantis didn't turn up. But I think in some ways the conference suffers for that.
Yeah.
But you know, it's, the upside is that they're all rallying around the what is going to be the nominee now. So you know, I have some mixed thoughts about. I know we're going to talk about this, but you know, mixed thoughts about Nikki Haley pulling out, because I think one of the great images that supports Trump is like every week trouncing the only other contender, right? You know, and giving his you know, his victory speech every week. Now we've got now he's got well over 6 months of trying to you know, generate his own media. I guess he's never had trouble doing that in the past, has he?
Well, no, he never. And I just want him to get back on Twitter, please, President Trump. I'm sure you won't be listening to this, but if you are, please, Andrew and I want you back on Twitter.
Definitely.
So it's so much fun with him on Twitter. And look, you've brought up Nikki Haley. We've got, as you said, we've got to talk about it because the Super Tuesday results are in. It is just Trump, pretty much across the board, like sizable double-digit margins. Nikki Haley has gone and suspended her campaign. That actually is an interesting point you raise, that Trump was actually drawing advantage from the image of him defeating Nikki Haley every week.
Yeah.
What's he going to do now?
I guess he's going to defeat the courts going forward, right? You know, one of the great things that happened in you know, last year is that at least the voters will get a chance now. You know, with the Supreme Court ruling, the voters will get a chance to adjudicate on Trump, rather than you know, left-wing state attorney generals trying to ban him from being a presidential contender. So that's been a great win, I think, for democracy.
Yeah,
and certainly a great win for Trump. And you know, he's got a lot of these court cases lined up, so I can see a succession of wins on the run to the presidency. And you know, for me, I think this could turn into a thorough trouncing. You know, he's definitely well in front of Biden, and how the Democrats can go forward with Biden as their candidate, I'm clueless how they can do this, but they seem determined to do it. The only concern is probably Texas. You know, Texas has 40 congressional votes, I think is the right terminology. If that flips, and it's always been, you know, then that could make it close, but I don't think it will. And I think really this next year may in fact turn out to be a coronation of Trump, his return.
I really do hope you're correct. I mean, my fear always with that is that, you know, the left and the media and the Democrats will pull off what they did in 2020 again, which was, as we saw in that infamous 2021 article in Time magazine, you know, the well-funded cabal of social media giants and people who got together, literally, as the article said, to change rules and laws and to change the spread of information. That was such a cabal, as they said. Do you think they'll be able to achieve that again this time?
Well, they're trying, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're utilising their friends within the deep state, which I'd include aspects of the judicial system now. There's definitely a politicisation of some of the state courts, and you know, and that's not unusual. We've seen that. I think you could argue down in Victoria and Australia, we've got some politicisation of the judiciary. So you know, I am concerned, but I think it's all out in the open now. You know, it's I think the feeling is that they are after Trump, and I think there's going to be an electoral reaction to that that will favour Trump. Yeah.
I really do hope so, and I think maybe people are a little bit more attuned to what actually can go on. The other thing is that they're not going to have the sort of mass mail out of ballots that they had because of COVID. I mean, you've got to think, don't you, they left to really use COVID to their advantage in 2020.
Yeah, I think so, and I think some of the Republican strategists say that they dropped the ball there. They could have counted, and they just weren't. They weren't on it, and as we know, often the left is very well organised, as we see in Australia, better organised than the right. So, but you know, look. You know, I find it just fascinating because I just can't imagine Biden will be the nominee. And then the question is, well, you know, I mean, to me, there's two questions now: who's going to be Trump's VP pick?
Yes.
And who is actually going to be the nominee? And I just can't. The strange thing is, there's really no one positioning hard to be the alternate.
True.
It's a very interesting kind of circumstance there at the moment, and you know, I can't see Harris. You know, being a positive, a net positive.
God, no, she's more unpopular than Biden.
And you know, none of the, you know, there's no one really sort of there that's putting their hand up. So, It's very interesting. So it looks like it's going to be Biden, and then the thing is, who's going to be the VP pick, Daisy?
And who are you hoping for the VP pick?
You know what? I think, so controversially, I would say his smartest pick would be Nikki Haley, to be perfectly honest.
That's a good point.
Now, whether he could do that or whether, I doubt it. Another pick that I'd really like him to consider would be Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, yes.
She's fantastic, and she would reach across to those disaffected Democrats, whereas Haley would reach across to the some of the never Trumpers.
Yeah.
And then there's a conga line of other talent that he could pick. Vivek, is like mini Trump.
Vivek, yeah.
But I don't know whether a mini Trump and a full-size Trump is
Trump.
necessarily. They're playing to the same audience. So it'll be interesting to see what his pick is, and it's a long way to go. So we won't know for many months. So, but it's for that sense, it's really fascinating.
It is fascinating, and we will certainly wait with bated breath for that that VP pick.
Yeah.
My big hope is Vivek. I love Vivek. Maybe it's because I'm a fellow millennial, but Tulsi.
Yeah.
Love her as well. So there's a list.
I'll tell you a story about Tulsi. She was the first Democrat to be invited to speak at the Ronald Reagan dinner 2 years ago.
Wow.
And I recall it vividly in that I was sitting with some board members of CPAC, and they were concerned, how this was going to play out. And so she arrived to polite applause, and after her speech, standing ovation. Like, it was just an amazing speech. And you could just feel that she, it's this journey. It's this journey that some of the left have. They realise that what they once believed in, what they thought the Democrats or in Labor here in Australia, what we thought they believed in, they don't believe in. And you could see that that was not her home anymore. So it was just amazing to see that speech. So, I have a soft spot for her based on that particular speech.
Oh, me too. I think she's great, and she's sensible. She seems like a lovely person. Ex-military as well, so she has that credential which everybody loves, a former person in uniform. Yeah, so she'd be good. Now, look, again, speaking of CPAC, a little bird told me there was a certain party at CPAC this year that was hosted by, it was the Australian party. I heard it was a lot of fun, and that a lot of the Americans didn't quite know what had hit them.
Yeah, so word got out.
How did that go?
Word got out that the Aussies were having an after party after the famous Ronald Reagan dinner. And before I know it, so it started at 10:30. Before I know, former UK Prime Minister Liz Truss turns up. Looking for a gin and tonic, followed by Nigel Farage. Congressman Matt Gates turned up with an entourage, the best-looking entourage you'd ever want to see.
Yes, I can imagine.
He really knows how to roll that guy. And a whole bunch of others turned up, and it was, I recall that we were told that we had to finish at 12. I remember insisting Nigel Farage leave at 3:30, which was hilarious. So I'm hoping that the Aussie party will be welcomed back to the hotel next year. And we had 26 Aussies travel as a contingent this year over there, and we're looking to build that to about 50. So if there's any viewers out of there that want to go to the greatest show on earth, political show on earth, they should reach out to CPAC Australia, because we're taking a crew.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I can second that. I went to CPAC in 2020. That was before the world went mad with COVID, and I can honestly say that was like some of the best few days of my life. And I also went in 2022. It's an amazing time. And tell us about that delegation, because I saw you were taking people. Like, where can people find that information? What kind of stuff did you do? How did it go?
Yeah, so we had some donors that wanted to take some younger people too. So we had half a dozen younger, university-age students that came with us, and they kind of helped out in a volunteer capacity. But we took them to, the Lincoln Memorial, to Arlington Cemetery. We arranged a private tour of the Capitol building, which was fantastic. A lot of special kind of access that we can get to, given our friends that we have over there. And then we have, as I said, sort of special access throughout the conference as well, and the after party. So they all had a great time, and a lot of others sort of followed that contingent as well. So it was great. It was a real buzz this year. I mean, and next year, if President Trump regains the presidency, you know, it's going to be just an incredible show next year as well.
Well, I will definitely, like, I'm determined to go next year. I was so bummed I couldn't make it this year, but like next year I will absolutely, regardless of the result, I will absolutely be there.
I've got some video of you doing video over there, and it's hilarious. Some of the interviews you were conducting in the US was fantastic.
Well,
we'd love to have you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, there's great people to interview over there.
Yeah. Now, should we talk about CPAC Australia?
Absolutely. You read my mind. I was just about to ask you. Tell me everything.
So, you know, viewers will know that there's one state election. There's one election coming up this year, and that's the election in Queensland. And so we've decided, given that CPAC had a meaningful impact in the Voice campaign,
yes,
we've decided that we can probably make some sort of impact on the state election. So we're bringing CPAC to Brisbane, to Bris Vegas.
Yes.
It'll be 3 weeks before the state election on the 5th and 6th of October. So we're a fair way out, but it's amazing how quickly it comes around. So if you're looking to come to CPAC Australia, make sure you make your bookings and you know, lock in your hotel, because we'll have a sold-out crowd there, and it'll be rocking.
Fantastic, everyone. You know what? You've got to get to CPAC Australia, because that one I will definitely be making.
Yep, Daisy Cousens will be there, everyone.
I will certainly be there, and please come and say hello if you see me. I'd love to chat to you. Andrew Cooper, magnificent as always to chat to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and love to see you again soon.
Thanks, Daisy.